Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So I know you're used to seeing something a little bit bigger on my bench, but I've got a small subject today, and it's this made in Japan Boss chorus pedal. It's a CE3. It's one of those original pedals from the 80s, so it's got the green label on the bottom. And I think it's got a little bit of an issue. It seems like it turns on and it works fine, but it will not turn off. So I just want to see what kind of troubleshooting I can get into to maybe make this thing work right. So let's dig into this thing. I'm just going to take the back off first. So here's that original green label. I'm not sure exactly what I need to do to get to that switch. I think I probably need to take off the foot pedal as well, but I'm going to go ahead and start by taking off the back here. Well, I really don't think anyone's ever been inside this thing before because those screws were tight. Well, after looking around in here a bit, I think I'm going to go ahead and try to remove this switch. It seems like it's going to come out the front, so I believe I've got to take the pedal off to get to it. Alright, well I think I'm going to have to lift one leg of this switch in order to be able to tell if there is function here. I think I will go ahead and test just to see if there is continuity here. Yeah, I can't really tell. The readings are all over the place, so I'm just going to go ahead and lift one leg of this switch. Alright, well I lifted one leg of the switch. I did a little probing in advance of filming this segment, and that really didn't seem to do anything. I had some continuity, but it was kind of unpredictable. Needless to say, I took the switch out. There's no continuity on the switch in this position, and if I click it, I don't see any continuity on the switch there. And I think continuity on this switch actually grounds whatever's going on, and you can see it acting kind of spotty. It's really weird. It's like if this switch doesn't work, then the pedal gets power all the time, but if the switch does work, then it actually turns the pedal off. So I'm thinking all I really need to do is take this apart and clean the contacts inside the switch, and I believe it should start working. I've got to be really careful that I don't let loose any springs inside this thing. Well, there's not much here, I can say that at least. Well, I can see how the switch operates, so I'm going to go ahead and put some deoxit in between the two contacts and just see if that improves the function. I'm going to run a screwdriver in between the two contacts a little bit just to scuff them up just a tad. Okay, let's see if that acts any differently now that it's been cleaned. Well, it definitely does act differently, but it doesn't act like I expected it to. It acts kind of like a momentary switch, so whenever it's pressed, for just a moment you get continuity. It doesn't stay in one position or the other. But I'll be honest, it's acting a lot better than it was before, so I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this and give it a try. We'll push this thing back into place, fold this back together, and then I just need to put some screws back in. Okay, well we're back together, so now all that's left to do is give it a test. So I've got it hooked up to 12 volt power because this is an old pedal. And I have a cable plugged in to simulate an input. And if I hit the pedal, the light comes on. If I hit it again, it goes off. And before I ever did any of this cleaning, it would never do anything but stay on. So I can already tell it's doing its job now. I think I may do one other mod to this pedal while I'm at it so that it will accept my normal 9 volt power. So the mod that I want to do is here on the circuit board. I've got a website that I will link to, and it's a site that tells you exactly how to change these things over from 12 volt to 9 volt. 9 volt center ground is kind of the current standard, and I think it'll be a lot easier to deal with this pedal in the future if I go ahead and convert it. These pedals are pretty cheap. They're probably under 50 bucks for something in this condition. It's not exactly a collector's piece, so I'm going to go ahead and do the mod. If you had a really valuable pedal, I'd probably advise against it, but I think this one being the green label, which is a later series than the black label, plus the condition it's in, usability means more than collectability to me on this piece. So I've switched my soldering iron to a very small tip, and I'm going to have to desolder effectively one diode and one resistor off of this board. You can look up the models on the link that I'm going to provide. Each pedal is a little bit different, but for the CE3 it recommends removing the D1 diode and the R1 resistor and replacing those with jumpers. I'm going to use a solder sucker and soldering braid to clean up the board, and then I'll remove those parts, set those things aside. I'll probably tape them to the inside of the case here just to save them as extra parts. Replace them with jumpers and solder them back in. I might not be able to get all that on camera, but I'll get as much as I can. Okay, at this point I've got most of the solder off of the leads, at least the board side of the leads, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to a pair of pliers on each one of the components, heat the legs, and pull them out. Well, they came out with no additional heat, so that was fortunate. All I have to do now is fashion some jumpers to put in their place. To create jumpers, you can use old resistor or capacitor leads, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, that's done, so I'm going to go ahead and do the reassembly, and then we'll try it out. You know, I think while I'm in here, I am going to go ahead and spray a little bit of contact cleaner on some of these points. There's some corrosion I can see on some of the inputs. I almost forgot to hide my extra parts, so let me go ahead and tape those to the inside of the case here. And now I can reassemble. Alright, and the very last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label the jack with a note that says that this is now 9 volt, because I don't want to make the mistake of using a 12 volt adapter on it at this point. Alright, so now I have my Boss 9 volt adapter installed, my simulated load, and if I click the button, the light comes on. That wasn't happening before when I tried this thing with a 9 volt adapter. I know some people say you can daisy chain these off of newer pedals and they still work, but I wanted to go ahead and make this one a standalone so that it would work no matter what I did. I'll check the function of the chorus out later, but I think we've done our job here. Alright, well that's it for the mods and the repairs to our little Boss CE3 vintage Japanese pedal here. I appreciate you guys hanging out for this one. I know it was a little bit different than my normal stuff. We'll be diving into some amps and some other things soon, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to check out my Hacks Guitar Hobby Facebook group if you haven't yet. I appreciate all the likes and all the subscriptions. Thanks for checking out my Amazon links. It really helps me when you do that. And I'll see you guys later.